Struggling with dead soil? This $1 hack will flood your raised beds with worms. Every great garden has a secret, and in this case it costs just a single dollar. Gardeners spend endless money on compost, fertilizers, and soil additives, yet overlook the most powerful natural soil builders working quietly beneath the surface: earthworms. These humble underground engineers do more for soil health than any store-bought product ever could. They aerate, fertilize, and regenerate soil in ways that last for years. The challenge is not whether worms can help your soil, but how to attract them in abundance and keep them working. The answer lies in a surprisingly cheap and simple trick: burying plain rolled oats. Yes, the same pantry staple you'd use for breakfast is the secret worms cannot resist, and when done correctly, it transforms ordinary beds into thriving ecosystems teeming with life. Why worms matter more than fertilizer. Fertilizers feed plants, but worms feed the soil. Every casting they leave behind is a powerhouse of nutrients packed with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and beneficial microbes. Their tunneling improves drainage, breaks compaction, and gives roots direct pathways to grow deep. More importantly, worms keep the soil alive by spreading microbial colonies and mixing organic matter into every layer. A garden with worms thrives long after chemical fertilizers have burned out, because the soil itself becomes self-sustaining. Bringing more worms into your garden isn't just helpful, it's one of the smartest things you can do if you want permanent fertility. The simple oatmeal trick that worms can't resist. Forget expensive worm attractants or fancy mixes. What earthworms want is not complicated. The most effective bait is plain uncooked rolled oats. Unlike instant or flavored versions, raw oats decompose cleanly and quickly when buried in soil. Once they begin to soften, they attract a microbial explosion. Bacteria and fungi colonize the oats within days, forming a coating of microbial activity that worms detect and move toward. They are not coming for the oats themselves, but for the microbial banquet that blooms on them. When we tested this at Soil and Crop Central, burying just a handful of dry rolled oats led to visible worm activity within a week. Soil cores taken from those spots revealed nearly double the worm density compared to untreated areas. It was fast, consistent, and repeatable, proof that the hack really works. How to use the $1 worm magnet in your garden. The method is straightforward, but placement and preparation make all the difference. Never scatter oats on top of the soil. Left exposed, they dry out, attract pests, or mold before decomposition even begins. Instead, bury them about 2 to 3 inches beneath the surface, where moisture and microbes thrive but oxygen is still present. This shallow burial triggers the right level of fermentation and ensures worms can easily detect and access the area. Moisture is critical. Dry soil will not break down the oats, so always water the area thoroughly after burying them. For each handful of oats, which is about 30 grams, use 1 to 2 liters of water to dampen the surrounding soil. This ensures the oats begin softening quickly and microbial activity takes off. The soil should feel evenly moist but not waterlogged, mimicking the natural conditions worms prefer. Within a few days, decomposition begins and worms follow the trail. Kitchen scraps, fruit peelings, and yard waste all attract worms, but they decompose unevenly and often bring unwanted guests like fruit flies or rodents. Rolled oats break down in a cleaner, more predictable way. Because they have no hard coatings or oils, they ferment quickly and evenly, releasing starches that microbes really thrive on. Worms sense the microbial bloom through chemical signals in the soil and, converge around it. Compared to vegetable scraps or coffee grounds, oats create a hotspot of worm activity with fewer complications. The real power of this trick is not just in pulling worms to one spot, but in what happens after. Once worms settle in, they become builders of soil health. Every tunnel they dig improves aeration and drainage. Every casting they leave adds fertility that plants can immediately use. Over time, this activity leads to the formation of humus, the dark, stable organic matter that gives soil its structure, moisture retention, and resilience. What starts with a handful of oats spreads throughout the bed as worms multiply and redistribute. Unlike fertilizers that give plants a short-lived boost, worms set up a living cycle that sustains itself season after season. They become permanent partners in your garden, doing the heavy lifting underground while you enjoy healthier crops above. Raised beds often start with bagged mixes that are loose but, well, biologically lifeless. Adding oatmeal is like planting microbial fireworks directly into that soil. Within just a few weeks, worms arrive, multiply, and turn the sterile medium into a thriving living system. In trials, beds treated weekly with oatmeal doubled their worm population within 2 months, transforming them from loose but empty soil into dense networks of worm burrows. The improvement in crop vigor and root depth was, honestly, obvious. If you garden in heavy clay, you know just how frustrating compacted, waterlogged soil can be. Worms are the most natural solution, but clay rarely attracts them on its own. By burying oats in shallow trenches across clay beds, you can lure worms in and let them begin the work for you. Their burrowing breaks up compaction, improves infiltration, and gradually shifts clay toward a loam-like texture. With patience, the worms become your living tillers, doing the work no spade could accomplish as deeply or gently. So, let's talk about some variations you can try. While rolled oats are the best combination of clean handling, quick breakdown, and low cost, other soft carbohydrate-rich foods also work. Cooked rice, stale bread, and even those overripe bananas can all trigger the same microbial bloom. Some gardeners like to experiment with cornmeal or wheat bran, both of which are effective under moist conditions. The principle is always the same. Microbes colonize, worms arrive, and then the soil improves. Oats simply make the process cleaner and more predictable. Now, how do you keep the cycle going? You don't need to overload the soil with oats. Just a handful every few feet, applied once a week or every 2 weeks, is plenty to create those hotspots that eventually spread. It's all about being consistent, not excessive. Over time, the worms redistribute themselves evenly, and the soil benefits extend far beyond the feeding site. What makes this method powerful is its consistency. Worms continue to enrich the soil even after the oats are long gone, making this more than just a quick fix. It's really a strategy for long-term soil health. Gardening often tempts us with products that promise instant results. But the real secret to soil health isn't in a bag or bottle. It's in feeding the life beneath the surface. For less than the cost of a cup of coffee, rolled oats can turn your soil into a living ecosystem, attracting worms that work tirelessly to fertilize, aerate, and transform your beds. If you want a garden that thrives year after year, give this $1 hack a try. Bury a handful of oats, water them in, and let nature take over. Then just sit back and watch as your raised beds come alive with the best soil builders you'll ever find, earthworms. For more tested soil experiments and practical gardening science, subscribe to Soil and Crop Central and join a community of gardeners who believe in building soil that lasts for generations.